Welcome to the John Harrison Podcast. Statistics show us that about 70% of people are disengaged in the workplace. Obviously, that affects bottom lines of companies, individual, their own engagement at work, but also affects families and communities. We don't want to just be frustrated about things that are going on in the workplace or in the world. We want to do something about it. So we're going to talk about this while others aren't, and we hope you will join us on this journey.
Welcome back to the John Harrison Podcast. This is Madelyn Baker, and I've got John and Christy and Melissa with us here at the table today. We're going to be talking about why people sometimes check out at work and why kind of overworking hurts more than it helps. But specifically about the checking out at work, this is sometimes referred to as quiet quitting, or there's other ways people can check out, of course. But John, I'm going to kick it to you first.
Thanks, Madelyn. And I think I will say there's always new trendy terms for things that have been around since the beginning of time. So somebody called it quiet quitting. They went, oh, I like that. Let's write a book on that. But this has happened for thousands of years, I would say. And I think, to Madelyn's point, people do check out for different reasons. And I think the key is making sure you understand why it is and not letting it slip into a bigger issue, perhaps like burnout, which we'll talk about next. But in my career, I saw people check out for a couple of reasons. I know you've all seen it too, but usually not being heard, not feeling valued. And that could be pay or benefits, but I think most of the time it's people aren't listening to my thoughts. I can't even speak up in a meeting, kind of feeling squelched a little bit. That's one that I hear people check out for that reason. What else?
Well, we also have a term that's also trendy now, situational ethics. So people are checking out because we have a tendency not to always follow the handbook, but we do it when it's convenient or when this person is not someone as well liked. And I think that kills morale in the office, even if it doesn't impact you personally. When you see it and it's someone you worked alongside, like it's really hard not to take that personal and carry that burden too with the person that's suffering from it. So situational ethics is probably high on my list as to why people quiet quit, or they find that invisible line that we talk about and they stay toes on the line.
That's right.
That's so true. Yeah, when I think about kind of people that are just exhausted in some ways, it has to go to the poor leadership side of it. So whether you're thinking about micromanagement as one end of the spectrum or not getting enough support at the other end of the spectrum, you may have an employee who is a star employee, but you don't even realize what you're putting on them. And so they're just slowly slowing their pace, slowing their enthusiasm, slowing their role, and you don't even know it, but it's because you put so much trust in them. You're overexerting the amount of autonomy and trust that you have in them, and it's just wearing them out because they're not getting that feedback.
Well, and both what you just both said is, tied back to accountability. Mm-hmm. So in Christy's example, really inconsistent accountability. People are saying, why is this person getting to do this, and blah, 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 perhaps, and then we dump on our best people. Mm-hmm. And so we know they'll do it, so we keep giving them more and more stuff to do, and at some point they're like, I'm starting to check out. So with that, let's talk about, regardless of what level you are in your organization, if you're starting to feel checked out for some of the reasons we just mentioned and even more beyond that, what are some things you can do to get out of that? Because obviously we hear this a lot. Well, at some point I just didn't do anything about it. I was on a scale of 1 to 10, I was checked out at about a 2, and then it became a 7, and then I quit. And that might be the answer sometimes, but we would hate for that to be the only answer. So one thought I have is always thinking of your customers, because it is hard when we're in an internal situation that's frustrating, not feeling valued, all the things we just talked about, but you still have customers. And I always think about this in our personal lives. Let's say you have a 2-year-old at a daycare. You don't want the employee taking care of your 2-year-old at the daycare to check out. You can understand them checking out, but you go, please don't check out when you're handling my child. My mom being in a nursing home, please don't be checked out when you're in my mom's room. So we don't want employees that are taking care of our kids, parents, our vehicles, making lunch for us at a restaurant, we'd go, you can check out, but not when you're dealing with me and my stuff. So I think we have to remember that your customers expect you to be engaged, even if you're having a checkout feeling, so to speak. What other advice would we give people if they're starting to feel that way?
I don't know if this is selfish to say, but it affects, your family. It affects you. And I think there's been times where I've felt so burnt out. I come home and I can't, even engage in conversation with my husband because I'm just so tired and drained. And so I think that being aware of your, okay, I'm not finding purpose in my work, which is probably another one we can talk about. That's a good thing to keep your sights on, is your purpose and your why for why you're working. But just, I know the days that I feel drained and checked out and I'm not finding my purpose or meaning in what I'm doing, it affects not only me but others, and then I can't perform. Even at work, like my performance continues to go down, and it's just a downward spiral. So just knowing that it's not a good thing to be checked out. I mean, a lot of people I think are just like, well, this is just how it is, and I'm just tired, and like I'm just gonna do it because I got to make a paycheck. But that's not a good reason,
Yeah. I think knowing yourself well enough to know too what it is that you need to be your most productive self. A lot of positions I was in, they were leadership types of roles. Some of them formal in title, some of them informal in title. But I did thrive on knowing, I guess, that I was trusted. But on the flip side of that, I still needed one-on-one communication and support from my leader, whether it was a regular one-on-one touch base or if I could pop in their office and say, hey, I just want to brainstorm about this. Am I on the right track? And knowing that I had that support and not being afraid to ask for it, because sometimes you could be perceived as looking weak or not knowing what you're doing, or, you don't want your leader to question you at all, but you also want the conversation, or you want the relationships to be in such a way that you can have conversation openly like that without that fear.
All right. And I think, too, it comes back to who you are as a person. Like, I never want to become a product of my environment. So if my environment is going in a way that I don't like, or I feel like there are things that I can't change, the only person I can control is me. So what am I putting back out? What am I doing to try to make it better? Am I being that voice of support? It's going to get better. Let's have 2 or 3 people that we can rally around and kind of vent to, but then have a solution for what we're going to do next, and we leave the venting section in the room? Or am I going to just kind of cower down and go into the woe is me? So I think part of it is, we talked about accountability from leadership, but we also have to hold ourselves accountable to say, hey, if I want things to change, am I willing to be that change?
That's great. And I think ultimately that may not work out and you may leave the company. Mm-hmm. That's fine. But I think looking in the mirror first, I was with a group a couple of months ago. There's a gentleman in the room. We were talking about performance reviews. He was a supervisor. He said, yeah, I haven't gotten one. I gotten one in 7 years. We're supposed to get them every year. And so we were talking, and I said, no, are you giving your people their performance reviews? And he got very quiet. And I went, okay, I'm not picking on you. I'm just saying, to Christy's point, you don't like what you're seeing around you, but you're kind of joining in. And it was almost like, yeah, I just kind of gave up. Well, don't give up. Be that different looking person. And again, so I think in our society that can look like, oh, you're sucking up to management and you're just so naive. It's like, no, ultimately you are responsible for yourself. And even if you do leave a company, I would always want you to leave with your head held high, going, I was always seen as a change agent. I did think of our customers. And for me, the last thing we can talk about maybe is I talk about pretend there's a customer on your belt. We just talked about that. I used to always pretend my 3 daughters were on my other belt loop, because what would your kids say about how you're acting at work? And if you say, well, my boss is a jerk, so I'm kind of being a jerk back to that person, or I just stopped working, or I'm, taking too long of breaks, or whatever it is, I don't think you'd want your kids to see that, because your kids are going to come up against opposition. They're going to have bosses they don't like. They're going to have jobs they don't like. And if our first reaction is to just lower our standards when you face those things. So I think it always helped going, what would my girls think if they saw me at work? For some of you, it could be your grandmother. It could be, if you're a faith-based person, it could be the Lord. It could be whatever. Have someone on your belt, so to speak. Customers should be one of those. But someone else that would, if they were watching you at work, because some of your grandmas might smack you and go, okay, stop acting like that and be excellent. And if that's what it takes, then I know that, it's a simple thing, but sometimes that makes a big difference.
Yeah, that's really good, John. I think I use that a lot, thinking, what would my mom, my grandpa, like at work, be thinking about, me, and usually, hopefully, they would be proud of us, with what we're doing and accomplishing and the way we're treating people. But thank y'all so much for giving your insights on this. And I hope that our listeners got something beneficial from it. And we will catch you on the next episode.
Thank you for joining us today on the John Harrison Podcast. As you know, we believe that a positive work culture creates a ripple effect that extends into families and communities. If you found anything of value in today's episode, please share it with somebody so they can hear it as well. And if you have questions or topics you'd like us to cover in future episodes, please fill out the form below.